always used to lay you clean up the messes. Down on my knees, thought I couldn't stand up on my own. Turns out sometimes you're stronger alone.
In part one of our discussion on gaslighting, we talked about what gaslighting is in general and what the effects of gaslighting look like on a person that has been subjected to it. In part two, we talked about how a person that is gaslighting you will deny the reality of what happened. In part three, we talked about how they take things that matter to you and then use them against you for control. Part four pointed out how blatant lies were used to throw us off balance. And now we're going to talk about 4 more hallmarks of gaslighting in short order. Remember, the purpose of gaslighting is to get you to doubt yourself so that somebody else is the person that you're going to look to for answers. He or she with the power creates the reality for the person and becomes their reality check. And then you become detached from your own thoughts and feelings, replacing them with the thoughts and feelings provided to you by the person who's exercising the control through gaslighting. As we talk about this and how it was used by the cult, again, remember that these things were often seen in our families of origin as well. These hallmarks might have been seen by your mom, your dad, your siblings, friends, partners, workmates, whatever the case may be. And you might also find that you yourself are employing some of these hallmarks in relationships, whether against others or more likely against yourself, internally causing self-doubt. So let's jump right in. Hallmark number 4, gaslighting is a gradual pattern and you are being worn down over time. So gaslighting isn't a one-time occurrence. Like I said, it's a pattern. And really, when you think about Jehovah's Witnesses, didn't they basically call their shot at the meetings? How many times were we told that we were getting reminders from the platform and that hearing the same thing over and over again shouldn't be a problem? That it's done to really sound things down into our minds and our hearts. Brainwashing, coercion, gaslighting, whatever it is you want to call it, it is done over time. And then that's why it's so hard to shake and to wake up from, because it was done over time. It runs really deep. Question: why do you think that we went out in field service? Why do you think that they try to get their Bible studies to go out preaching early on? Is it because we're in a hurry to make disciples, or maybe something else? What if the real impact of the field ministry and telling others about what you believe is that it reinforces internally what you've been told to believe? As humans, we have a need for our internal reality and our external reality to match. So if we can get people early on telling other people things that they're just starting to learn about, they must really believe it, right? The preaching work is a form of self-brainwashing, just like making you preach from your seat as you raise your hands to comment and regurgitate the information that was just fed to you at the meetings. Possibly the same information that you studied at home before you heard it a second time from the platform and a third time from your own mouth or from somebody else's. The constant barrage of meetings, ministry, videos, books, all of these things make it impossible to get away from. Hallmark number 5. When a person is gaslighting you, you'll notice that their actions often don't align with their words. They're incongruent. Shunning is loving. Let me say that again. Shunning is loving. Maybe I should say it another way. You show your love to someone that you love by shunning them. Or maybe since I'm speaking to people that are probably shunned already, don't you feel the love? I'm not sure that there's a better example of actions and words not aligning, but that's a big one from the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses, isn't it? I imagine it sounded really weird hearing me say it like that because it is so weird and because those things don't align. So let's see if we can come up with some others. When is the end of the world coming? Isn't it just around the corner? Aren't we living in the final part of the last second of the last minute of the last hours of the last days, the final last second nonetheless? And don't they describe the world like the Titanic at times, talking about how it's sinking and how we wouldn't be rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic while the ship is going down? Or maybe they use the example of a burning building and how we would rush in to save people from the fire, right? Not getting distracted by other things first. Do Jehovah's Witnesses really believe that? Do they live like it? Or are they going to movies, having families, buying pants and beer grooming kits for the meetings, making real estate moves, starting businesses, maybe going to a tech school, watching sports, binging a show on Netflix? For people that have been proclaiming the imminent destruction of this world, they sure don't live like it, do they? I'll throw in another term real quick. Other religions have the concept of grace. And while some used it as a battering ram like Jehovah's Witnesses do, many kind of seem to focus on the love that their God has and how, because of that love and his sacrifice of Jesus, he welcomes sinners into his midst because he wants to work it out and forgive them. For Jehovah's Witnesses, what was the term that we had for grace? It was undeserved kindness. The notion that God would take pity on us worthless losers, and that if we did everything in our power, possibly you may be saved in the day of his great anger. They would talk about the ransom sacrifice and how much Jehovah and Jesus loved us, but in the same breath, use it to make us feel worthless at best. Like we were something that God didn't really want, maybe something God didn't deserve himself. But, he'd put up with this for a little bit if we performed at a high enough level to merit it. When somebody is gaslighting you, pay attention to what they do, not just what they say. Talk is cheap. Hallmark number 6, they will throw in positive reinforcement to confuse you. So a person that is gaslighting you is seeking control, right? So they're going to push you and push you and push you. Right when you get to the edge of that cliff and you're about to fall off the edge, meaning that they're going to lose control over you, suddenly they're going to be super nice and love bomb you to reel you back in, get you away from the edge of that cliff so they can start it all over again. When I was waking up from the cult, I remember going to meetings on Sundays with the special for your eyes only version of the Watchtower, the study edition that they don't make available to the public. What I noticed was that we would have a few articles in a row, maybe in the same magazine, and it almost felt like different people wrote them. Article 1 might have been a scathing piece about the worthlessness of the good for nothing slaves of Jehovah in the scriptures. Article 2 might have been about how you and I were worthless sinners too, and how we needed to police ourselves. And then the third article would be something about how Jehovah loves us so much that he sent Jesus to die for us because suddenly we have value. It's confusing, isn't it? It kind of goes along with that undeserved kindness I just mentioned in the last hallmark. Somehow, after we were beaten down long enough for being dirty sinners, we were ultimately Jehovah's chosen people. God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten son for us, but he's only going to save a chosen few. You're a good for nothing slave of Jehovah, but somehow you're special. You are love bombed when you're a new study, but once you're baptized, they're likely going to move on and forget your existence, aren't they? But then, if later you figure out that there is no substance here, suddenly they're going to be interested in you again and whether or not they will love you back into submission or love you into shunning. And then after they shun you, they can reach out on occasion to tug at your heartstrings, to maybe tell you how much they love you as they invite you to a meeting as the governing body told them to do, only to reject you again if you don't play their stupid game. The praise from somebody that's gaslighting you is likely only because you did something that served the person doing the gaslighting. Hallmark number 7, people tend to project when they're gaslighting. So the person accusing you of having a secret bank account in the marriage might have one themselves. Your partner's accusing you of cheating, but they're the one doing so. Your cult points out the sexual abuse scandals in other religions, but denies it for their own issues. They have you condemned for questioning their teachings, while they question the teachings of other religions. They have you going door to door to question the veracity of the people you preach to, but never your own. They drag you in the back room for any perceived weakness and demand apologies, or you will be shunned, while they give talks about how they don't need to apologize for anything that they do, no matter how many people it hurts. You are put on the defensive so that it takes attention away from the gaslighter's behavior. So, who do these things make you think of? Anybody in your life? Can you think of other confusing incongruencies in the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses? Or maybe you have somebody in your life that pushes you to the edge. Right before you're about to fall over it, suddenly they love bomb you to get you back. Maybe you were the person that was cheated on with a partner that was accusing you of the very same, using projection to throw you off course. So, what about you? How do you see these things reflected in your life? It's not only something to think about, but feel free to comment below. Maybe it'll spark others and help them to see ways that they too are being gaslit. Next time, we're going to talk about a few other ways that Jehovah's Witnesses use gaslighting to isolate you from others as we end up bringing this whole series to a close. We're also going to discuss an acronym that can kind of help you to remember what at least some of this looks like in an easy way. If you're struggling to move past the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses and the impacts on your life, I work with many individuals daily in my cult recovery coaching practice at exjwhelp.com. That's exjwhelp.com. I'm also working hard to bring new resources into the ex-JW community to lift people up financially. If you're a person that has a small business, maybe you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness and you've started something or you've got an idea, reach out, because through the Uprising Project, trying to help people network, help people have opportunities to promote their products and services, and to try to lift each other up by helping one another out, helping support one another financially. And if you have an idea for something you'd like to see discussed, go to shunnedpodcast.com and submit it through the contact page. So until the next episode, love yourself and others, do no harm, and go be happy.